Hi, in today's video I'm going to show you how to do something simple, but the payoff at the end is pretty good. What I'm going to show you how to do is I'm going to show you how to polish the brass tubes on your vintage NuTone door chime. This particular tube is from a K-model chime that was made sometime in the 1950s. And like most of these tubes, they get tarnished over the years and they get a lot of marks on them. It will be kind of hard to see, but there are marks here, and there's some dark marks down here, which you maybe can see. Like all things that tarnish, it happens very slowly over time, and you don't really notice it so much until one day you do notice it and you think, hey, those could look a lot better. So I'm going to show you how to do this. So you don't need a lot to do this. You only need a few things. You need your tubes, of course. You need some gloves because you're also going to need some Brasso. And Brasso is a really good cleaner for brass, hence the name Brasso. Look, it says quality for over 100 years. How about that? And you need a whole bunch of rags, and you need some time, because on an average this is going to take you about 1 hour per tube to do it. So the way I recommend doing it is you get yourself all set up, you put on some music or some show that you like really a lot, and you get your favorite beverage and you sit there very peacefully and you polish the tubes. And you don't have to do them all in one setting, but the more you get on it, the sooner you'll get it done. So it's not really difficult to do, and I'm going to show you how I do it. And no, I'm not doing a whole set, and no, I'm not even doing a whole tube. I'm just going to do part of it to show you how. Alright, so here's our brass tube. We're going to start at the bottom of the tube. We're going to take our rag and we're going to put some Brasso on it. Now, like all the times that I make videos about vintage door chimes, I'm going to say the same thing I always say. What you do, you have to be careful when you do it. These tubes, very hard to find. If you have a complete set and they're in reasonably good condition, you're miles ahead of some guy looking for one because one of them got damaged. I also do not recommend, I've seen people say things like, oh, you can put it in a drill and spin it and do the rag on the spinning thing and blah, blah, blah. No, that's all bad idea. Something wrong is going to go wrong, or if you damage the finish on it or something like that, what are you going to do? Sometimes there is no substitute for actually doing the work. And that's basically what we're going to do. So we take our rag, we're going to put a little Brasso on it. I like to take it and sort of blot it into the towel there a little bit. And all you have to do is rub the tube. How much do you have to rub the tube? Well, a whole lot. And it really comes down to how dirty or how ox tarnished are the tubes. The better they are when you start, the faster they're going to get done. I've seen some that they're nearly, I don't know, probably as close to new as you possibly could find them. And then I've seen other ones that they're just about as dark and brown as they possibly can be. I think one of the things that happens is sometimes you see them and they have a lot of splotchy marks on them, and I think that's where people bump into them and the oils from your skin turn the brass dark. So here's what comes off the brass. And I'm pretty sure, although I haven't tried it in the extreme, that regardless of how good the tube is, the more you clean it, the more comes off. So, I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody who's going to watch this that's going to know more about it than I do. And the other thing is, like right here, there's a splotch. So when you have a splotchy part, you can focus a little more of your attention on the splotchy part until it kind of disappears, as that one almost has, and then you can continue on to the rest of it, back and forth. And you can kind of tell when you need some more, because it starts to get kind of gloppy. Gloppy is an industry term for polishing things, I'm pretty sure. And you work it, and you do it, and you do it. Now, one of the things about Brasso is, let's see if it says it on here or not. shake well, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't really say what's in it. Oh, contains ammonia, it does say. Okay, so it does contain ammonia, and surprisingly enough, it actually smells a lot like ammonia. Go figure. So when you do this, you want to make sure that you have some halfway decent ventilation wherever you're doing it. I don't necessarily recommend that you do it inside the house because you'll probably get yelled at. And I'm just doing a little bit, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But if you're someone who doesn't like the smell of ammonia, you might want to do it outside or have a fan or some other thing. And we're almost all the way around this first section once. And there's a variety of ways of doing this. I have these sitting on the pile of rags because it makes it easier for you to see. I wouldn't necessarily do it that way all the time. It just makes a better video. So then if you wipe it off, the residue, and in the bottom, because it tends to get in the open bottom a little bit. Oh, and you want to be careful when you do this that you're doing it in some place where you've got a pretty good grip on this, because you don't want the tube to fall off the workbench or wherever you're doing this and fall on the floor and get dented, because it'll never come out. The dent will always be there. So now if I look at it a little bit carefully, I've got one little splotchy part still right there. So let's start with a clean spot on the rag. And one of the things about the rag, so these are our shop rags, or shop towels I guess they are, and we buy these in bulk and we use them for all sorts of things. We sort of use and abuse them, and they get dirty, they get stained, they get torn. When they get really bad, we throw them away and then we buy more. And pretty much when you do something like this, your rag is going to get really, really, really dirty, and it's going to get brasso all over it, and it's going to smell like ammonia. And when you're done with this, just throw it away. Alright, so that's pretty good. So I hope you'll be able to see. Let's wipe this off. Like that. Maybe you can see, if you compare this section with this section, this is a nice, light, reasonably shiny brass color. And this up here is a much darker, deeper brass color because it's oxidized. And you can probably see it better like that. So this section down here that I cleaned is a nice shiny brass. And up here, it's a much darker brass where it's still oxidized. Now these tubes were in pretty good shape to start with, and they weren't that objectionable other than all of the splotchy marks on them, and up here in particular where you can't see. Anyway, so that's the fundamentals of cleaning the brass tubes. So like I said, you need gloves, you need a pile of rags, you need some brasso, and you need about an hour per tube. Your favorite music or movie and or beverage are optional, but I recommend it highly. And that's all there is to it. I hope you found this interesting and helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. The more people subscribe, the more people that find our videos, and we appreciate that. That's all for today. See you on the next video.